news of the day. Let's just start out with it. News of the day. And we'll go down all the list of all of these stories here, and we'll touch on all of them. But when I said we had some quarterback news, Scotty, I wasn't messing around. We had a benching, and that was Derek Carr benched by the Raiders, and Jarrett Stidham.
I don't. You got it right.
Honestly,
You nailed it.
never heard that. Heard that. I didn't know he was a quarterback in the league. But
What? Went to Auburn? You don't remember Jarrett Stidham?
No, not at all. But team starting quarterback since 2014. First year coach McDaniels said, "Nope, I think we're good. We're gonna go with the young kid," and he will start against the San Francisco 49ers Sunday at Allegiant Stadium. And we it was just like, what? Where did this come from? Quarterback Derek Carr is stepping away from the team mutually. They have mentioned as of some sources saying both sides talked about it and said it was best that Derek Carr's not a distraction here, and that they're just going to move on. And man, Scotty, remember the romantic story of Derek Carr coming out saying he wants to be a Raider for life and he wants to retire here, and he is a Raider, and whoo, man. Well, that ship is kind of sailed, and now he's seeing it from home. He's watching the games from home.
I honestly think this is trash, Chris. I think this is a trash move by the Raiders. Chris, this comes down to one thing. They're done with Carr, which is fine. Whatever. But Carr has guaranteed money. They have to release him prior to 3 days after the Super Bowl, I believe. And then if they do so this year, there's no guaranteed money left. He's a free agent, whatever. Or they can trade him prior to that. But if for some reason he was able to play in these last two games and get injured, it's injury protected for the next 2 years. So then if he's injured, they can't release him, and he's on the hook. They're on the hook for that money for the next 2 years, and they don't want to do that. Somehow this team chose Josh McDaniels over Derek Carr. Now, and I'm not saying Derek Carr is obviously been in the league a long time, never won a playoff game. Totally get that. But are you telling me Derek Carr last year looked pretty good? Led that team to playoffs, almost threw for 5,000 yards. A 10-17 when they went through a coaching change mid-season when John Gruden got ousted for some weird emails. And Derek Carr led them. Now you add Devontae Adams, one of the best wide receivers in the league. And so, of course, everything's on the up and up. This offense is going to ignite, and it hasn't done so. He leads the league in picks. I get that. Quite frankly, I watched the last pass, the last interception he had. His last play as a Raider is likely going to be the pick he had to seal the win for the Steelers on, was that Sunday night? Sunday night? Saturday night? Whatever night that was. And Chris, I literally that throw, I was questioning whether he had money on the game. I mean... It was a wide open down the seam pass that could have changed the outlook of that game, and he threw way over him, way behind him. I don't know what he was doing, trying to hit Hunter Renfrow, but nonetheless, this dude is literally the one that is getting scapegoated here. He's getting the scapegoat. They're gonna move on from him. They're gonna release him or trade him. There's gonna be a lot of suitors, Chris. I mean, there's teams out there. There's the obvious ones. There's the Indianapolis Colts. Carolina Panthers are probably going to be looking for a quarterback.
Atlanta
Falcons make less sense to me because they're more they're still building up to something, whereas some of these teams are more ready to win now and might want Derek Carr, or so we thought with the Colts, but maybe not. Here's one, Chris, and I don't mean to be insensitive here. I really don't.
Here we go.
Here's one out of left field, though. I'm just saying, Miami.
Ooh.
And because, Chris, we have to start considering whether Tua can continue to play football.
That's the net.
3 concussions. 3 concussions this year. That's not, and he's young. That's not something to play around with. It's not like those are just going to go away and he's going to be concussion free the rest of his career. I mean, Miami would make a ton of sense. Ton of sense. See, chairman's on board with me.
Yeah,
CG, I thought Scotty was gonna say the Broncos. No, they got Russ.
we got some things to work out
They're
there.
good at quarterback.
We got some things to work out there.
Miami's an interesting spot to me.
Miami is interesting only because, again, going into the NFL season this year, they were trying to figure out, again, we keep bringing this up, the fact that is Tua their guy, and I think that they figured out that he could be, but then you have this that's really starting to take, I mean, you have people in the media, people on NFL teams that are tweeting out saying, dude needs to sit down the rest of the season, regardless if they make the playoffs or not, based off of all of these concussions he's having back to back. And Riley in the chat was saying something about the NFL's failing to protect this kid. Tua is not going to have much of a future if he keeps getting concussions every other week, it seems like. And he had one this past week. He won't be playing this week. Teddy Bridgewater will be in there running the things for the Miami Dolphins. But again, this isn't something that if you're Miami, you're kind of like, this is a little bit of a liability. Do I start looking elsewhere? Because if I have to deal with concussions as much as we have this season, and we have to miss out on having our starter quarterback, maybe you move on. Maybe you move on. And this isn't a terrible idea to take a look at Carr.
Another team that would shock people, but another same situation, Chris, where this quarterback's
another
injured,
one,
and quite frankly, career could be in jeopardy. And I don't think people realize the extent of this, but Matthew Stafford
is another
might
one.
not be able to play football again. Like, he has some serious injury concerns that could jeopardize his career.
They got Baker Mayfield, bro.
So the Rams make a ton of sense. You know, Sean McVay, I don't know, like, that would obviously have to be in free agency because the Rams don't have any draft picks to trade. I mean, they got none left. But the Rams could be interesting. Washington is now back to starting Carson Wentz, so they probably need a quarterback. There's a ton of QB needy teams. And that's not even saying that the ones at the top of the draft, but those are teams that are probably, like, it's not like Houston's going to be in the mix for Derek Carr. That wouldn't make sense.
Yeah, crazy. I mean, there's a lot of options.
His wife came out and said he won't retire. Okay, I didn't hear that, and that could be true. I just think that you got to start thinking about it if you're Stafford, like, quality of life. You got your Super Bowl win. You justify your career. He's been playing a long time. But, you know, if he wants to play, obviously, it's ultimately his call, and if the doctors clear him, they clear him. That's another one that I could see heading where it's just like, what makes sense at this point for Stafford and his health and his family and his kids and being a dad?
Yeah.
You know?
Saints with Sean Payton says Milwaukee. If he stays, he's not going to be.
Wait. Sean Payton is not on the Saints, Chris. Sean Payton's not a coach in the league right now.
No. Yeah. But don't they have his rights, though, still?
Yeah, he's not going back to.
He's not going back there, so he's not going to be a part of the Saints if he comes back.
Derek Carr. It's not like, listen, Derek Carr, I think, is a perfectly respected. Derek Carr is Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins is like, that would literally be the Spider-Man meme, Chris. Like, Derek Carr and Kirk Cousins are the same dude. They're the same exact guy. They can throw when they have time. They're on script. They have weapons to throw to. Off script, they're garbage. Pressure, they're not good. Prime time, often poor. They're the same people.
Hey, Casually, thank you so much. Wait, you haven't I haven't banned Rec yet. Just kidding. How's everyone tonight? We are doing fantastic. Rec, how you doing?
Good. How about y'all?
Still not banned.
Somehow.
But there is some chatter here. So Rec says, you saw this report, Rec. Michael Thomas hinted at Brady and Peyton going to New Orleans.
New Orleans doesn't even want Michael Thomas, so I don't think Michael Thomas knows what he's talking about.
Fair enough.
STG, what about Tampa Bay? Tampa Bay is going to have a vacancy here soon because, you know, Tom Brady isn't going to be back in Tampa Bay.
Yeah. And that team will be a lot better, actually. I mean, they've been, not that Tom's been good, but their offensive line has been hit extremely hard with injuries this year. That's hampered their ability to function on offense.
Cuban, what does the NFL need a maximum concussion limit that a player can't go over and stay in the league? I mean, I don't think it's a terrible idea to think about, like, if you've had like 5 concussions in a season or something, you should probably you have to sit out a certain number of games, or I don't know, something like.
Honestly, that feels like a lawsuit waiting to happen, though. Like for the NFL to step in and say, like, I'm forbidding you from playing this league based on the amount of concussions you have. If they want to play, I don't know if the NFL can do that.
It's a slippery slope, to say the least.
Yeah. Everything here is.
It's there's a lot that goes into it, but I mean, again, Tua, they're starting to put together little things to try to appease everybody, right? With the little, the new concussion protocols that have been put in place since Tua got his concussion back-to-back weeks earlier on in the season.
And by the way, 2 of his 3 concussions he continued to play with. So maybe that's the bigger issue. Like,
True.
why are we missing these? And I don't know. I don't know the easy fix, but there's supposed to be a spotter on the sidelines that spots, and maybe he didn't get up wobbly this time, but he hit his head. You've seen the play, right, Chris? I mean, Miami's like, we don't know which play it was, or McDaniel said in their press conference, but
Even the fans did.
Yeah.
Even the fans saw it.
The fans saw it. The TV, the broadcast saw it. I mean, literally everybody saw it. Everybody. Yeah. And that was how it was after the first concussion when he was stumbling off the field. And it's
exactly.
Like, well, we got to see him stumbling. Do you, though? Do you? Like,
I mean, same thing happened to Pickett a couple weeks ago.
Yeah. I mean, it's just wild to me that Tua's still in the situation that he's in, given the circumstances of the course of this year. It's wild. Chairman, big question is, how does Tua not get taken out of the game?
And then he said, OMG, yeah. Scotty, stop it. Like, he's pretending like he didn't just copy what I said. He's claiming he was like mid-chat. I'm just kidding, Chairman. Of course we're on the same page, man. Of course.
Don't shoot the messenger, but the league said no symptoms or red flags were immediate after the play. The league should have pulled him anyway. They said his symptoms came after.
What about the 3 picks he threw in the fourth quarter?
I mean,
or was it the fourth or second half at least?
Yeah, second half.
It was the fourth.
Was it the fourth? Yeah. So what about? I mean, that last one, Chris, was one of the worst throws I've ever seen.
It was.
It was like Russ stepped into Tua's body and was like, "I got this,
bruh.
Let's ride.
Come on, man.
It's spicy."
Is it insensitive to say that Tua concussed is like Russ Wilson if we're comparing quarterbacks?
You need to relax, man.
Probably a bit.
Okay. Sorry.
Yeah. Also, Tua's not out here getting roasted by Patrick Starr of all people.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, Patrick Starr's like slamming Russ.
That's how he wanted to cook.
They had the Nickelodeon game. And then did you guys see, Chris, maybe one of the worst moments in Russ's career? I post in the Discord. They literally, Subway has a whole menu of football player sandwiches. And we've talked about Russ's, what is it, like the Danger Witch or something?
The Danger Witch.
Spicy.
And they took Russell Wilson's name off it. It's not, the sandwich is still there. And all the other sandwiches have player names with it, including a Patrick Mahomes sandwich that everyone should try. Plug. But
Yeah, better idea. No.
But Russ got removed. Like, that's how bad his career is. Subway's like, we can't have you tied to our sandwich anymore. We can't. It just can't happen.
He's
Subway. This isn't like the pinnacle of subs. Okay, this is Subway. This is like, you go in and you see the meatballs. You're like, those have been
cooking for like 2 hours.
No, those in that same tray for like 4 or 5 days.
Yeah,
but I'm still gonna eat it and probably like it. It's fine.
You're still gonna eat it no matter what. But yeah, I saw that. I was like, man, there's been I don't think there's been, when we talked about this, and this all culminated this past week in first year head coach Nathaniel Hackett getting relieved of his duties. And I keep coming back to Cuban said it on the last show. Is Hackett the scapegoat for Russ and all of these? Because there was a press conference this week, Scotty, and I think you might have seen a little bit of it, of the Broncos, Penner, and you had the GM Peyton out there sitting side by side, and didn't get great reviews locally here. A lot of people were roasting this press conference of, oh, Penner doesn't know how to run a franchise. He doesn't have a clue of what's happening on the football field. He doesn't know how to what the NFL really is how to run a team. And he's lost. You got Peyton's lost, and man, it was a roasting session. And then you also had Wilson come out this past week and say, I should have played better for Hackett and this and that. Well, I think you tried to play better, and it just, wasn't really working here. It was a rough go this past week, and they ended up...
You mean when you lost to a 4-win team by like 40?
We gave up a 50 burger to a Rams team with Baker Mayfield.
They haven't scored 50 points combined in the last like 5 games.
They didn't score 50 points when they were on their Super Bowl run, and they were good, Scotty.
Now they got Mayfield,
now they got
That's the turning point.
So it was embarrassment, and rightfully so. Something had to happen, and here we are. Woo! Casually average.
We knew this was coming.
Yeah.
Hackett was out. Hackett, by like week 5, I was like, yeah, he's done.
The Carolina...
I was like, maybe he'll make it through the season, but that's it. He's not coming back for a year or two.
The Carolina loss was really one of those points where I was like, I could see it happening.
You mean the NFC South champion Carolina Panthers, Chris? That team?
Yeah.
Okay. We'll get into that later.
We'll get into that. But
no, this team, Chris, listen, and now that he's released, there's tons of speculation nationally and locally about throwing Sean Payton. Sean Payton will be rumored. Every time a coach gets fired, that team will be like, what about Sean Payton?
He's not coming to Denver.
0% chance.
He's looking at Fangio to be a defensive coordinator, and Fangio just got really and then someone I think in the chat before was like, oh, but the Broncos did it with defensive coordinator Wade Phillips. He got fired from the Broncos and came back, but there was a long time in between. There was a long period of time where he bounced around a little bit, came into a new situation. Like
I can already tell you who your next coach is going to be if you want to know.
Frank Reich is out there as an op. He's the favorite Vegas.
I'm not even saying this is an awful hire. I don't think it's a bad hire, but this is who it is. You're not taking another first-time head coach, right?
No,
you can't.
And that was scary thing too. And Peyton mentioned in this press conference, he got the question: are you going to be open to new first-time head coaches? He's like, yeah, we're going to keep our options open no matter what. And I was like, no. What are we like? Have we not learned our lesson with first-time head coaches? Have we not learned our lesson? I didn't love a lot of the answers that came out of that press conference, Scotty. But anyway, who do you got as the Broncos' next coach?
And real quick though, Chairman's like, the only way he goes to Denver, speaking of Sean Payton, is the Walmart family throws so much money at him he can't say no, which maybe applies to Sean Payton, but everyone being like they can get a better coach than maybe they deserve because they can throw money at him. Guess what? This franchise just fired their head coach after less than a season. So yeah, you can get all the money in the world, but if you're going and this is your one chance of being a head coach in the league. You screw this up, you coach this likely bad football team. No offense, Chris.
It's a bad team.
You're not going to be able to get another job. So there's more than just money at play. But Chris, the hire is Dan Quinn. It's 100% going to be Dan Quinn.
Dan Quinn was
not 100%, but it's going to happen.
Dan Quinn was in the rotation of candidates last time. He's perpetually been one of the candidates for this team. He's going to bring
Schottenheimer on as the OC, who's worked with Russ before. That's been that rumored that's the connection. That will be, and I really, really think, I think it's going to be Dan Quinn. Which, listen, the question with Dan Quinn, and he had a good run. A pretty good run in Atlanta, right? He wasn't a disaster. But is he a better DC than a head coach? Probably. But is he an awful head coach? I don't think so.
Owners wanted to wait to the end of the season, but the Rams lost, expedited the process. STG said, yeah, 100%. I think that they wanted to make it through the season. Not too many. There's a small percentage of coaches that get fired after their first year. There's a very small percentage of head coaches that get fired halfway or with that before the season is over in their first year, which is kind of crazy. Diacola, Peyton.
Chris, this is the least desirable job.
No, yeah,
this offseason.
I agree, because you look at Russ
because of Russ.
Well, you look
at
at
the money tied to him.
You look at the quarterback. If I'm a coach, I'm looking at 2 or 3 things. I'm looking at who's my quarterback and what's their potential. Can we get them, going? Number 2, what's our flexibility to sign free agents? What's our flexibility to get pieces in place? What's our draft pick look like? What does our future look like in the next 5 years? It doesn't look great. Then you look at the coaching staff that's flipped over a couple of years, and then you have, you have to start from scratch. You have to build your own thing. You have to start all over again in the offseason. You also have some high expectations here with this new ownership. You have all sorts of things happening that are just like very daunting if you're an NFL coach looking to, find your next coaching job, and it's here in Denver. Let's just put it that way. Peyton took over responsibility in this disaster. Still has a job. They still say they're saying they have faith in Russ and Peyton and they can turn this around. We'll see.
They have to.
They have to.
They have to say that. They have to. You can't not say that. Although he had a weird answer when he's like, yeah, the new head coach is gonna need to have a relationship with Russ and the other quarterbacks, backup quarter. It was like a weird Peyton's not. He didn't do a great job in that press conference.
The next coach needs to come in and say, hey, I want to get rid of all of Russ's people. You are one of the team. You don't have your own office. You don't have your own nutritionist. You don't have your own
Well, you can't say that you don't have your own nutritionist. That's literally you can't.
It's all. I mean, here's the thing. When who was the coach that came in with Peyton Manning and ended up he came into Peyton Manning, told Peyton Manning, was like, hey man, I'm gonna need you to make some sacrifices here and do things my way. And Peyton's like, sure, I'll do it. And it ended up working out. Kubiak. Yeah, I think it was Kubiak. Kubiak came in and was like, yo man, I got a way of doing things. I know you do too. I need you to conform to what we have going and what we're building here. And Peyton Manning was like, sure, I got you, man. I'll take care of that. I'll do my part. That's what needs to happen with this new coach that has established credibility and say, dude, you can't have your assistant. You can't have your own strength and conditioning coach. You have to have the team. You be with the team. Be a team player.
Now, no offense, Chris, because that's fine. But is him eliminating these things going to get back his accuracy, his decision making, maybe make him grow a few inches and also get his legs back?
Maybe.
Okay. All right. Maybe it will. Maybe it will.
I just think to be immersed in what the team is going on, I just think there's some value in that.
The players do not like Russ. I think that's pretty clear.
You got to earn the locker room back. He doesn't. Do you see the sidelines nowadays? It's not pretty. What were you going to say, Rex?
Although they push the backup quarterback, your offensive lineman pushed Brett Rippon on the sideline. I don't know what happened there.
Apparently,
and then you guys were down 30, and Russ is on the sideline with a football in front of his mouth, talking to the offensive linemen who are a foot away from him, as if this is the problem with Russ. Just put the football down, man. You're down 30. No one's reading your lips right now. Okay. No one gives a fuck about what you're saying. Your team sucks. You suck. Just be normal. Be a normal person.
SDG.
That's his problem. He doesn't know how to be normal.
Russ needs to stop focusing on the brand and focus on football. Biggest problem. I agree. Cuban also said something. The Broncos had a fun idea. Offer Ivero, the head coaching job. Hoping he might take the job. He declined, by the way. He declined.
Which doesn't mean he wouldn't accept, in my opinion, after the season, but I think it's a good choice for him not to.
No,
right now.
His stock is high, and he's going to be a coaching candidate in a better position somewhere else that could potentially pay him. And not too many coordinators turn that down, but he has reasons why. And they all make sense. BP show, welcome in. Let's see. Steve Wilkes may get a second chance due to Carolina's success right now. Well, and that
Steve Wilkes should get the Carolina job after he wins the NFC South.
Broncos next coach, Urban Meyer. Just kidding. This is BP. Casually, Dan Quinn isn't the worst hire, especially if he gets the right support in OC spots. This is casually. Eric Bieniemy. No.
Not in Denver.
No, and Scotty, you've talked me off anything surrounding him. I feel like
and it won't happen in Denver. Not to say he can't get a head coaching job, but it won't be in Denver.
And you're not high him in anyway.
No, I'm not.
One common thing you have solidified. You still have Russell Wilson. True. And you know what? Next year with a new coach and everything else, if we get to a point where the Broncos are still in the same struggle next year, then you got to take a hard look at maybe eating some money and see what. I mean, I know it's tough, and I've seen scenarios where you gut this team to the core, and you cut Russ and you eat a ton of money, and it's extreme. You can't. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't. You got to stick with it. But
if you cut Russ and you're paying him all that money, who's going to be your quarterback?
Well, and that's another. There's a lot of questions with how you.
You don't have a first round pick. You don't have a second round pick.
Well, and
Carr.
Well, you do have a first round pick actually because you traded Chubb, but it's late first. You could throw a flyer on a late first, but no. But Derek Carr's not coming to Denver.
But
Rec props. Rec made maybe the best comment he's ever made in the chat, Chris. He's like, we're talking about the Broncos and Hackett, but why is Spees on the graphic?
Bruh. Do not clip that and send that to Spees, please.
I mean, he does look like Spees.
Roger.
Oh my goodness.
For once, guy doesn't want to ban me.
No.
Yeah,
that was a great comment.
Yay.
Oh, poor Spees. I mean,
poor Spees. He's an NFL head coach. He got fired. It's unfortunate, but at least he had a good run.
How do we get Spees in the graphic? I don't know. Come on, man. I don't know why our audio isn't some of these alerts aren't popping through, so they might be delayed. Sorry about that. Scotty, does Bieniemy have any pull as a head coach position? Says STG.
I mean, literally this week, I've heard rumors that the talk is he could have a really good chance this offseason. I'm like, he's interviewed with like half the teams in the league already and hasn't really been considered a finalist. It really seems like in maybe in a couple of them, but my thought is no, but crazier things have happened. Like I think this is last year in KC. So he either gets a head coaching job or he's not back as OC next year, and he try and the Chiefs will spin it like, hey, and Bieniemy will spin it like, I clearly me not calling plays or whatever under the Andy Reid tree is costing me a job, so I'm gonna go somewhere else and I'm gonna prove my worth there, and then I'll get a head coaching gig. But I don't know. I literally don't know if it's just bad interviews. He's really well spoken in press conferences, so that's it. It would surprise me that he'd be that bad in an interview. Do I think he's gonna be a good head football coach? No, I don't.
I mean, coaches talk amongst themselves. Who's good? Who's not? I'm looking to
and Andy's gonna sell him as Andy will build him up. Andy's not gonna do that. Andy's gonna build that dude up and try and get him a job.
Well, I'm just
for multiple reasons. Not to mention, no offense, but we get like 2 third-round comp picks if he becomes a head coach next.
But
year
you get players talking to other coaches around the league, and you get things swirling around. I mean, it happens, and we know that there's always rumors surrounding him and how his coaching style maybe doesn't fit everybody. So that's a piece of it too.
Does he have some skeletons in his closet or something? How is he? Yeah, actually he does. He has a history involved in some not so good things at CU, ironically, which is where he also went to school. But there is some skeletons in the closet. That was a long time ago. I don't know. I'd be surprised if that's the only reason, but I've heard he's intense. Very, very intense and very Like people, he comes off like kind, but like in the locker room, he's intense. A lot to handle.
Byron Leftwich was considered a hot commodity. He blew his chance. I haven't heard chatter about him. Yeah. And here's the thing. We're going to have a lot of coaches that are going to be, cycling through. I mean, at the end of the season, you always have that what is that? The Black Monday or whatever they call it for, coaching moves and different things. So you'll see some more. And then that's when all of, you'll have everybody out there. You have all the candidates, all the vacancies, and we'll be able to dive into where we think people are going to go. So it'll be interesting for sure. Last one on here, Correa. We talked a little bit about him. We don't need to spend a lot of time, but the Mets bring in Correa, and they're like, hey, San Francisco, y'all have issues with his MRI. Come on over here, hang out with us for a little bit. Let's get you a contract, 13 years, and then they're like, okay, yeah, let's take care of that. Let's get you physical, and they see how jacked his knee is. I don't know if you've seen. I don't know how accurate those X-rays are.
I saw the picture. I'm not a doctor, but there's a lot of separation there, Chris.
There's a lot of issues.
Like, it looked like 3 inches, which is pretty good, right? Like that's average.
So then they were like, wait, 13? How about 4? How about 4 years? How about 5 years? I'm speculating. I'm just saying what I would say. Slap Scotty.
Sorry, Rick. I had to do it.
And so, yeah, you have this issue where the Mets are now getting cold feet, and there's nothing finalized in that. So he's in limbo again. And will other teams take a chance on him? Now, there's a chance that the ship that he's getting a long-term deal after 2 teams, prominent teams like the San Francisco Giants and the New York Mets, who are not afraid to spend money, are like, yeah, I don't know if I'm willing to spend money on this dude for that long of a contract.
Well, they shouldn't have been. Even if he was perfectly healthy, it was a terrible contract.
Even if he's perfectly healthy, correct. So it's in limbo, Scotty.
Yeah, we're back in limbo. A lot of people thought the Giants were just getting cold feet, and all of a sudden now a second team's like, oh, actually, this looks not so good. Like, you're not. Oh, by the way, you're not going to be able to play when you're 41 years old. Turns out. So maybe we'll just offer you a 5 or 6 year deal, and Correa's like, nah, I don't think I want to do that. So we're just kind of in a standstill right now. We'll see what happens. This is why, like I said, Chris, you don't sign players to that long of a contract at that age.
The more you know.
Why am I not a GM in baseball? I don't know. Mostly because I can't evaluate talent, but I can evaluate contracts. Maybe I should just be one of those like contract gurus on the back end.
You should. Maybe you should.
Yeah, I'm ready. Rockies. I mean, I already am employed by you. Maybe a change of position and a salary bump. Significant one,
a very significant one. And make sure you get Chris some tickets, just right behind home plate. Yeah,
that's actually going to be my biggest thing I'm going to argue for.
I mean, that's a big piece. You got to take care of your boy,
my man, for sure. I got you.
We do have more news that y'all missed.
What do we miss, Scott or Rec?
JJ Watt is retiring.
Oh, JJ.
Yep.
JJ's retiring, correct. Which actually hit a lot of people across all sports leagues. And yeah, it's kind of crazy to think that it was kind of out of the blue. Everyone was kind of surprised. And yeah, JJ Watt calling it quits. I mean, he's had a great career, but just never really, long career in Houston. Now,
what are you about to say here, Chris? I'm intrigued.
I'm just trying to.
He's never really what?
Had a chance to compete for a Super Bowl.
He was on some good Houston teams. They were like, I know they didn't make like long runs in playoffs, but he was on some good Houston teams.
Yeah. He never had a chance to do some of those things that you'd want a guy like him. Cardinals were the closest shot, and everyone thought that the Cardinals were, on the up and ups, and he might have a chance. You got building a team, DeAndre Hopkins, and stacking some players around that Cardinals team. And this might be it, but he's calling it quits at the end of this season. This is the last time he'll be playing football. So one of the most prolific pass rushers in the history. I mean, he is at his peak, absolutely insane. One of the best to do it.
I'd like to pose a question here in the chat. I think people are probably going to go one direction, but I'm interested. Peak JJ Watt versus peak Aaron Donald. Who's a better player?
Ooh.
Peak JJ Watt versus peak Aaron Donald.
Put that in the chat, Rec. Let's put that as a poll in the chat and see what people in the chat think. I'm curious on that. That's a good question, though.
Cuban, remember when people thought JJ was almost as good as Vaughn? Oof, I mean, he was better at Vaughn. Peak JJ was better than...
Peak JJ was...
Probably better than peak Vaughn, in my opinion. Actually.
I mean, peak Vaughn was pretty good, too. But yeah, I mean, JJ just... It was dominant. I mean, he was...
Interior pressure, and he'd get there so damn quick. Yeah, it sucks that he didn't ever get an opportunity to, even compete or get close to hoisting Lombardi, but he's a first ballot. He's a first ballot Hall of Famer.
100%. He
has to be. If he's not, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, I agree. And then vote right now. 6 votes for prime JJ Watt over prime Aaron Donald. I mean, wow. Pretty much a landslide right now. Keep voting. Let us know.
Not the direction I thought it would go.
I mean,
honestly,
I think there's a little recency bias with Aaron Donald winning a Super Bowl, and then he's definitely been a force over the last few years for sure. But people forget how good JJ Watt was coming out, and then just his rise to that peak form. Man, there was nobody that wanted to play with JJ Watt on the other side of that line. Like, no quarterback was excited to go into those games. It was crazy. 7-2. Keep voting. So yeah, good question though. Watt, 3-time Defensive Player of the Year is Milwaukee's.
Where's Donald at? I know he's at least 2.
Yeah. JJ needs less commercials and less playoffs. Needed less commercials and less playoffs. Yeah.
We could do another poll for you, Rec, after this, like peak JJ versus peak TJ. I would take JJ for sure there. No offense. TJ's great. TJ's great. I'm taking JJ.
Chairman's right, though. This is an ActionLab poll. It's supposed to be a tie. Well,
yeah. What are we doing?
I don't know what we're doing.
I've never seen such a blowout.
Yeah. No, this is ridiculous. I need a tie, so keep voting. Get Aaron Donald up there.
I mean, now like 9-2. I think all of a sudden we're disrespecting Aaron Donald.
Now it's just like slap in the face.
It's not 9-2. It's closer than that. Aaron Donald's really, really damn good. And the reason I kind of asked this is someone actually was like on Twitter put it out there like, hey, like first ballot Hall of Famer JJ Watt, and someone in the comments was like, Aaron Donald's kind of taking the shine off JJ Watt because he's a better player. And then the poster was just like, why do we have to do this? Why can't we acknowledge that they're both great?
This is
it doesn't discount what JJ did because Aaron Donald's really good too. Like they're both for first ballot Hall of Famers.
This is the same argument with Embiid and Jokic. Why can't we just enjoy both players being really good and not comparing and not like this guy's better than this guy? But I mean Jokic is way better.
That's what sports is.
But Jokic is way better, by the way.
Well, yeah, 100%.
And then SDG, who do you and Scotty and Chris, who do you guys have?
I got prime JJ. I didn't think it was going to go that direction, but I go prime JJ.
I'm with you on JJ. I just remember so many of his games, and I mean obviously Aaron Donald, again, recency bias, but JJ was a different thing, different beast. So yeah,
they're both the 2 best pass rushing D tackles I've ever seen. So it's not a knock on either. But I go JJ.
Who's the better Watt? JJ, TJ, Derek. There you go.
Probably Derek.
Derek's by far 100%. Yeah. All right, guys. Well, there you go. But knowing we're at the end of the year, we have a couple things in store for you guys. Before we get, we have a couple things. One, we're gonna hit a couple throwbacks to the year in sports, and we're going to talk about some of the things that we might have forgotten over the course of the last year, and kind of reminisce in some of the things that maybe you guys laughed about joked about, whatever you saw on Twitter, all the different things, because it's easy to forget at the end of the year. You got your Spotify Wrapped, you got your Twitch Wrapped. Everyone's getting the reports of what they've done over the course of the year. So we're going to dive into some of the stories that kind of, popped up, and maybe some of the funny ones that, you may not necessarily remember. And we're going to kind of run through these a little bit. And I want you guys to share your wacky things that you remember that stand out to you. And then we're going to get to the serious moments, the best moments of the year later on in our top 10 ranking. So make sure you guys stick around for that as well.
That's when the anger ensues.
That's when it gets spicy.